Hello, my lovely, inspiring human potential community. In this universal love energy transmission session, we will be clearing charged emotional mental patterns around resentment and pain and transmuting to empowerment. So we'll be looking at moments, not all, but moments of feelings with that resentment and pain, and what empowerment of the self-ego. Okay, so this is always going to be connected to our ego self as we are doing these sessions to support your inner growth journey, bring inner harmony, and allow you to expand your higher human consciousness potential, which is something you do when you are self-empowered in a 5D and beyond state of consciousness. So choosing enlightenment, and this is that functional adult engaged in a ventral vagal state. In fact, before we begin, here's a tidbit from Deb Dana on engaging our ventral state. So Deb Dana LCSW has this video where she's talking about personal connection plan. And I'll read it out to you because she has the video. You can check it out on YouTube. She's one of the nicabm.com, the institute that I get to get my psychoeducation from, the psych education, and she's one of the people that I've learned a lot from, and she has this video that's talking about how to engage in more of a ventral state, because our nervous system in that state is at ease, it's empowered, it's in the I can engage, I'm safe with humanity. And so she says it's very easy for people towards the end to be pulled out of this state and to enter hyper-aroused and hypo-aroused, so to be in their sympathetic nervous system state or dorsal state, which regular listeners know more about. But to keep it short, this is where in those states, your prefrontal cortex, you don't have access to that prefrontal cortex energy and really that area. So you're not in your ventral vagal. The prefrontal cortex is instead engaged when you're in your ventral vagal and when you are in a state of physiological compassion, meaning your isola is engaged, the amygdala lights up because something grabs our attention as well, obviously, or otherwise we wouldn't be attentive. Temporal junction, this is where we can relate based on our own experiences and relate to the emotion. And then our prefrontal cortex engages. We are assimilating what's happening and also able to be in that executive position. Okay, so here are my options. The aspect of people not being engaged in this is there's a tendency to be in the adaptive child response emotionally is what I'm going to say, but also there's neural networks. People don't engage in thinking beyond the battle format. And it's not your fault, it's because of the verbiage used. And this is why we're also going to look at a couple of examples as we work with the emotions. But I'm going to give you some examples based on the Shaman's Dream Oracle. We have two lovely cards in front of us. For those of you who are watching the YouTube video, for those who are on the podcast, you'll have heard the description of them. And we're going to use a couple of phrases so that you may hear the difference of when you're choosing to look at resentment, which is you wanting to defend yourself. It's a great thing to have. It's better than having numbness and complete, I feel dead inside. I can't do this inside, because it means you're ready to fight for your life. And in a good sense, emotionally, okay, because these are all inner emotions that we work with. Our mind and heart are from within, but they have a very big impact on your day-to-day life. That's why we unwind and clear, but we also do this. Okay, here's what empowerment feels like. So empowerment, that ventral vagal state, is a combination of one, you physiologically knowing how rhythmic breathing does support you to enter that state. So having that in your mind's awareness is a good thing. If you feel that you want to practice more of ease, get a heart-brain coherence meditation, or there's even the 5-minute. I have a 5-minute video that I watch every day and do the breathing. It has a little timer, and that gets you to gain awareness of what your body actually feels like when it's in this state of ease. It's a natural state that we all can be in. And then the thinking. So studies have shown, and I don't know which body did this recent one, but 95% of people think thoughts they don't want. And this is because you keep reading material that keeps presenting to you good guy, bad guy, when emotions are emotions. It's okay to have resentment. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. They are emotions that arise as children. And then they keep on moving in the same direction, because as you grow up, you're actually not saying, wait a minute, let me tend to my ego self. You've got some sentence you use, such as, life must be hard, I must go through pain before I learn anything, versus no, your actual nervous system is in a hyper-aroused state or hypo-aroused state. We didn't have that information. Now we do. So Deb Dana, in fact, again, shares how only in your ventral vagal state do you have one access to curiosity, because you are engaged in your prefrontal cortex. So curiosity is a product of you being in your ventral vagal state, and that feedback loop is yours to choose. But if you are, and she uses the word pulled out, you're really not pulled out. If you're watching something, reading something, you get to be aware of this. So the inner growth mindset journey and lifestyle approach, I'm here trying to share with all those who are doing this how to take note and stop engaging in what keeps you actually in resentment and in an adaptive child ego response. It's identify that you're feeling the emotion. Now that you have a body piece of information, I've helped you to de-vilify this entire experience, but the next step is up to you. It's up to you, because people do have this tendency, and I say people because personally I've always felt a part of the entire human species with the ego in mind. Nothing was ever good or bad. It's imperfect. Everything's imperfect. That's part of life. The unknown is part of life. So my nervous system did not react to the lack of predictability of humanity with this, oh, they're all evil because they're hurting my feelings. No, it was, okay, they're hurting my feelings, and then I would be able to tent it, and that's what those who are in that 5D self-empowered enlightened space have been doing. Those who have complete compassion and love for humanity and curiosity. This ventral state has always been a natural inclination for those who are right now saying, yeah, I don't have it against life or humanity. I don't use cliche sentences for pain. So transmuting pain again, and then looking at repairing. Even though the body, mind, and spirit don't need repairing, unless you're physically injured, there's not a need of repair. But what there is a need of is you to tend to your defensive state, the ego self, which has been feeling threatened by something and or upset. So your emotions, they're not good or bad. They exist because your body's protecting you. Your heart's protecting you, your mind's protecting you. The part about you thinking thoughts that aren't helpful, that's what we get to work with as well. So again, in ventral state is when you're engaged in curiosity. You choose to do the feedback loop. If you choose to keep engaging in your battle format feedback loop, you can't expect your body to feel safe, because it doesn't. That's the minute you're going to either allow yourself to stay in resentment, or say, you know what, I choose this feeling, neutrality, because while you're feeling it, obviously it's not going to be like, oh, let me experience joy right now. You're still upset. But you say, let me choose neutrality, which is part of that map of consciousness. You staying centered in your heart, and you realizing I can be that emotional grown-up, that functional adult, and know, yeah, I'm pissed, I'm resentful, and you start walking through what's happening versus telling a story and just labeling people, situations, this battleground that does nothing except for repeat ego cycles in a way that doesn't really do anything for you, mind, heart, or body. The ventral vagal state, furthermore, once your feedback loop is in curiosity, so you don't see threat in life's experiences, life's unknowns, and people and situations, but you understand it for what it is. It doesn't even have to be an opportunity. It can simply be that there's 8 billion of us, there's different cultures, different systems. It's all about the feeling you choose to bring forth as you are allowing yourself to accept the lack of predictability that life holds. That's why you're always, always working with your nervous system and your brain. And you're choosing to disengage from the limbic system, those reactionary ways that we can have but you are tending to the ego self. We don't talk about the ego self as a bad thing. In fact, it's called, by the psychologist terms, self-regulation. So as you allow yourself to engage in the curiosity loop, compassion is what follows. And the more you do that, the more you're in compassion. And we've learned about compassion in the compassion training episodes, where I was learning from one of the classes that I've taken in the past. So before I continue to our transmission session, what Deb Dana gives as an exercise, I'll share it now, that way you guys can have it, is a personal connection plan to engage in the ventral state and to nourish, therefore, your nervous system in that state. So she poses to her clients two questions, or two things to do lists on. What do I do? She has one, to decide and/or list who the people in your life are that you feel connected to. So who is it that you feel connected to? Make a list of those people. And then what can you do together to commit to the connection? And what do you want to do to nourish your own connection to yourself, your ego self? Okay, so things you want to do with the people that you're connected to, and to connect more to your inner self. Now, the second is, what do I want to explore? So this is to engage curiosity and to enter that loop. Who would you like to invite into your connection? And what would you like to experiment with to have new connections to yourself and others? So experiment in curiosity. Okay, so engaging in interests. And again, for those who regularly tune in and have been watching these transmissions, everything and everyone that surrounds you has an impact on your life. Your support system is important. If you are explaining yourself and having to struggle, your energy is going there. So abundance grows where energy flows, right? And if you're using your energy to explain yourself to people, you're taking away from time you could be spending on the things you love to think about. So right here, experimenting on reading something new, integrating something else, watching another episode of whatever, or being in a group that has an expanded version of the topic, because some people are limited. There are many people that are limited when I talk to them about the science and spirituality and connect the dots. They want to stay in the 4D, 3D realm. So you are the one who gets to choose. If you're going to be around those who you can't expand with, don't expect your access to that infinite higher human consciousness to be able and make its way to you, because you're using energy to try and defend your position. And here's why those types of competing relationships, they're all adaptive children fighting for who's going to come out of it as number one. That can't be expanded, because they're each other's not enemy, but it's like, I'm going to have it better. So you don't want more of that. There are those who will stay in your life that are that, but as you enter empowerment, it's going to be very different, because those who do stay are usually the loved ones and the people that are part of our day-to-day in a consistent way. There's that connection. And really, we always will have a variety of people. That's what helps us to expand, because as you're engaging with them, who gets to grow up and be more compassionate? The person who's in the 5D self-empowered enlightened space. You're not looking at those people as confining anything. But there are those who you will know instinctively are not helping to expand because you have to battle. Okay, so that's the energy that you want to note. If you're battling to explain yourself, you're using your energy and time that way. So make your choices on that. Self-empowerment feels this way. Not only are you in a very safe body, so that breathing and just calmness in your mind and your tone, you're in a space of love, passion, peace, you're in compassion. Personally, when I think of situations that have not been kind, so people that have been in a space of unkindness, there's a sadness, a heartbreak, but it is merely because there's a lack of need to be unkind. We have these beautiful words, but people don't always, again, want to use them. And so the emotions aren't actually explored together, conversations aren't actually explored together, and pain is all that's left. Here's where we recently were talking about that, even in the transmission on forgiveness, but you can bring self-empowerment into the mix, which is what leads you to not be in resentment, but to hold sadness, if you will, and it's more about you than it is about the situation, because every one of us cares about life in a different way. There are people who they can have things take place and they don't care because it's not a big deal. It's not something important to them. Then there are those who instead, there are things that will always be important to them. So get to know that with you and identify. So empowerment doesn't mean you don't feel sadness or upset. It means you're tending to your emotions as they arise, and that life is still very amazing, because emotions aren't bad or good. When you're feeling, whether it be resentment, frustration, again, you're not battling it. Those who access that infinite higher human consciousness will lead to a state of neutrality, and that's why the emotion that you will feel in moments where something happens in life and or people do things that perhaps are unkind, you're not experiencing them as a bad or good thing. You're experiencing them already with the awareness of your own ego self and what's happening. You're not reactive. You are conscious and attentive and present. Now, this is all, again, for your lovely inner growth, and as an energy healer during the session, I will be channeling universal love energy through me into you. For those who are open and receptive to this universal love energy, which is always sent for your highest and best good, that will be channeled through me into you. Give your consent. State aloud in your mind, yes, aloud or in your mind, and state that you are open, receptive. I am now connected to you. Take a look at the lovely Shaman's Dream Oracle cards we have in front of us. Let's rhythmically breathe. That 5-second inhale, 6 seconds exhale. If you're not comfortable with that, then slow down your breath. Let's slow down our mind. Let's clear the mind. Let's bring down the shoulders, open them up, right? Let's get relaxed. Relax, relax. Look at the screen. We got some lovely colors to look at here. In numerology, there's numbers for anyone who loves numerology. We got 4 and 3. Yes, it's 22 and 39, but we have 4 when you add them up, and this is 3. So it's foundations and changes, transformation. 3 is where you get rid of what you're no longer needing and you bring in new, while 4 is can also be like holding on in a protective way. So they're both ideal for what we're going to get to look at. Now that we're calm, I would like you to think about the moments where resentment has arisen. And I want you to just allow yourself to be neutral towards that resentment, whether it be towards yourself or people. To recognize it for a defense mechanism. So that's a good thing. You're defending you. The ego self of you knows it has a right to exist, okay? That's why it's a good thing. You're having that emotion. If, let's say, you feel more of the numbness, then still that's a way that your body has learned to defend you from hurt in life, okay? So please sit with it with neutrality. Now, next to it, you can bring in what I described as empowerment. So passion, peace, love, compassion. Bring the unconditional love. Pure love is unbound, unconditional. Bring it to you and to resentment. Start bringing that. And so allow that resentment to sit so that you can be neutral towards it, because it is actually alerting you to something that doesn't make you happy. It's alerting you. I'm going to just read a little bit of the booklet here for us. So as you can see, we have number 22, Our Lovely Fool's Embrace, Transmuting Pain. And the other one is 39, Me Talks, Repairing the Body, Mind, Spirit. So once again, you don't need repairing. You're not broken. The first thing you want to start disengaging from are words such as that, because thinking of yourself as broken simply keeps you in a visual, that keeps you in a storyline. The Me talks about releasing the people who you feel wronged you or offended you, to recognize that they mirror the shadow aspects of your own soul. This is for those who are in the spirituality community, because those who are not will be like, this is definitely BS, but we'll break this down in a minute in a more body, mind, heart, neutral, empowering way. Get rid of thoughts and personal judgments that are in your mind that are, okay, I need to grab the book. I had taken some notes because I didn't want to read all of it to you guys. So get rid of thoughts and personal judgments, poison in your mind, that's the word. Eliminate the inauthentic beliefs of others you've adopted as your own. Do so before your mind makes you sick. Okay, so right here we have no ownership of the fact that we're part of a society and that nobody imposes thoughts on you, that you are the one who's, yes, surrounded by that environment. So we do understand that, but that's where we coexist. In the absence of the external, you don't have thoughts or feelings that you can describe. You have the feelings from the body, but we wouldn't be able to have conversation. So thinking of getting rid of thoughts and personal judgments, poisoning your mind, not to mention talking about thoughts and judgments that are poisoning. Again, you are immediately battling your own situation. You're not your best friend. You're not bringing harmony. You're not in empowerment. You are in a battle format with your own mind, which is actually trying to speak to you. This is why this wording, you don't need to get rid of stuff. By these self-empowered, enlightened people, those who regularly tune in, no, we're not getting rid of anything. We're expanding. We transmute. You transmute. So first step, let's uncharge, let's clear, let's break down. We're not getting rid of thoughts or personal judgments. They're not poisoning your mind. They are present for something, for reasons. Releasing people you feel wronged you. You don't have to release people. Gain awareness of why you feel they wronged you. Let's start to go from adaptive child to functional adults, because those people, you chose them. Let's be neutral. So resentment may be arising here because they did wrong or offend you. I've got plenty of people that have offended me, wronged me. I don't think ill of them. When the feeling of ego self arises, I know what it is. It's me defending me. You replace resentment with, am I in danger? Are you in danger if somebody has offended you? Physical danger. This is the choice. You can stay in your hyper-aroused or dorsal state, or you can go to ventral vagal state. You're not in any physical life threat. What you are in is an emotional ego self threat. And that's why resentment is arising, or this idea, and really it's a feeling again. You can stay in that if you want. Same way you can instead lead yourself to compassion. Neutrality is the first step, because of course until you're in the habit of allowing you to take ownership, you chose the people. I'm sure they offered you some really great moments, that you had fun. There's always a plus, otherwise they wouldn't be a part of what you went through. What happened is they didn't meet an expectation, or something happened where they hurt you, did something that hurt your feelings. It's okay. Doesn't need to be the big bad world. Those are the narratives that people instead use. And this is why release the people who you feel wronged or offended you doesn't help you to take ownership, transmute the feelings, and to recognize that those people did give you something. You grew with them. The part about the shadow aspects of your own soul. We have mirror neurons, as the psychiatrist explained. So we also have, you vibe your tribe, the oscillator, neural oscillator. This I still have to read the whole description. It's in the Power versus Force book. So we connect to people that we're going to have something in common with, and the vibration goes way deeper. I'm not going to get into it right now since we're doing this clearing and uncharging. I might add a little bit for the podcast listeners, but the part about the shadow, yes, you're going to connect to people that have things that you also have, so you can look at yourself. Nobody's perfect. Again, there's no need to think of releasing them or thinking of them as mirrors, but to know that those people offered you something, and right now they're not. Right now it's feeling restrictive, okay? And to know, okay, it's feeling restrictive, it's feeling not fair. What do I want to do? Here's us using prefrontal cortex. Now, let's unwind the emotions and the thought patterns. For those who may be thinking of steps to take, being able to speak is always amazing. Not everybody wants to, so don't expect that from everybody. And if you can make peace with those people, that's great. As the psychiatrists point out, confrontation is always going to have moments of awkwardness. So what you want to work on is the emotion of empowerment and knowing it won't be comfortable because I'm going to present things that hurt my feelings, and this person and or people are going to obviously be in their own ego self because we're all going to defend ourselves. You choose how to be at your best, and empowered is the best. This is only if you're practicing to unwind, to uncharge the resentment feeling, and to tell the ego self we're an adult, we're not in a physical life threat. It's up to you to gain that ventral state over and over and over again. This loop is not only created in one way, it's your body, heart, and mind. It's all together. It's literally you choosing actions that are not in any way charged. So when you feel offended or betrayed, people aren't always choosing that because they're immediately defending the charged state and thinking really that there's no alternative. Well, there is. It's called empowerment. It's called self-regulation. It's called being a full-blown emotional grown-up. And that's with the ego self. So you don't have to, again, release people. You can try and talk. You can try and find harmony. For those who don't want to, then you will find your own inner peace in time through acceptance. Now, if we move to the Fool's Embrace, we see that it talks about transmuting pain, allowing life to love you, the experience of quote-unquote both and. The pain of life is sometimes unbearable. So right here, they don't actually share with you that our nervous system hones in on pain from the minute we begin experiencing life because it's going to want to make sure to protect us. So the trauma, every one of us has trauma. It's an overwhelming feeling that wasn't processed by our body, and it gets stored. Now, the other part is we feel heartbreak due to, let me grab the little infographic quickly, our primate human brain, our cortex, is where we feel love if our needs are met, and we experience heartache if it's not met. Also, we have an attachment, defensive state, our nervous system. It's part of our mammalian heritage. The want to be needed, belong, okay? So the way we feel about life, and remember the lack of predictability, the nervous system doesn't like that. So the unbearable component in this sentence in and of itself gives you a storyline. The pain of life is sometimes unbearable. It's talking about life and pain versus breaking it down. Life has unknowns. Pain arises when that happens. The unbearable, it's not really unbearable. It's deep because your body's feeling that much endangered in that moment. So it's scary. And here's one way that you can relate to anything that has been painful differently. Because guess what? When you're reading a sentence like that and you're already feeling in pain, well, I don't think defining that pain as unbearable is going to get you into a neutral state or empowered state for that matter. It just dug you that much deeper. It just allowed your temporal junction, which is already engaged in that painful experience, with a memory of something else that has happened that is similar. And here's where you get to fuse with the suffering. See plenty of people doing it all the time. And it's because of the way that, again, others have and continue to share how to move into another space, which is not with the feeling of empowerment. It's in this same space as it was before, if anything. So they go on to write, when we're in it, we think that pain, that loss, that betrayal will always be woven through our continuity of existence. They're describing, again, a thought pattern that happens, and that continuity is not actually something that we're clearly thinking of. It's because we are upset, and in that moment it just seems like it's going to last forever. But here they keep on saying, we're kept hostage by the way we identify with the pain and what we make it mean. You're not held hostage by your own thoughts. You're the one who's thinking them. You're the one who's exploring. But if you're not exploring, then you're not really doing anything different. So words, very important, how you relate to your emotions, to pain in life. You're not a hostage of life. You are living life. Unless you want to be in your own movie, which it's fine, but it's better to be the participant. So again, if you're hostage of your own emotions, you're not able to be the master or the empowered person of your emotions. That's all. If we let it, it becomes etched into us like a tattoo. So this continues to give a cognitive way. This is the part of why sometimes people, I don't think they really think of how they're trying to support humanity, because right there they just gave another imprint that a person's going to look at, because that pain is already like a tattoo. If it's that unbearable, you feel it like that. So now you have another visual. It's not keeping you neutral or empowered, guys. That just, again, made it that much deeper. And I'm not talking about the beautiful message of the cards. I'm talking about the way your brain thinks. So this is why I'm describing this and giving you other ideas. You want to recognize how you walk through when you're in a space of I'm hurt, I'm heartbroken. And if you're using these words in this way, then you're in a battle format. You're not pursuing expansion or growth of you. You're not uncharging, you're not empowering. You're in a state of that feeling. You're in your temporal junction, in fact, not in that prefrontal cortex, and most likely you're not in your ventral vagal state. Breathe. Remember, it's emotions, which are part of your body, which is part of the human experience, and not because I'm going to want to go off on some other place. It's you as a human being. That's what I mean by human experience. Allow yourself to, right here they say, befriend it rather than resist it, running from it, or judging it as bad or unfair or hostile. Can you see the gift that is here? Even here, when they're talking about a deep pain as a gift, I don't know about you guys, but when I've been in those moments, it's not surely going to be thought of as a gift. The part about befriending it, yes, but I would say let's not befriend. How about we learn in a way of empowering ourselves? So the first thing is first. It's an emotion. Very important. Very important what happened. And leave it at that. And allow yourself to feel through the emotion. Empowerment comes from you stopping the narratives of why you need to either befriend, not befriend, think of it as a gift or not a gift. That is not what is happening. What is happening is there's an upset, and you can walk yourself through it. And that's the practice. So right here, some may feel still resentment, because you will feel it's unfair. Why do I have to go through this? And here's where, once you move beyond any type of belief system, if you will, so you live, whether you have a belief or not in something afterlife, you are here now. Okay, it's not to disengage from beliefs, but this is that moment of sometimes there is no why. And you'll continue to feel a specific level of depth as you seek out why this thing that's so painful happened. So moving beyond a belief is empowering, not because you're going to think of you triumphing over anything else. This is actually a focus on the emotion, guys. Knowing that every human being feels this level of pain as the compassion training psychiatrist state is something that takes away the specialness. This is where most people, when they react and interact with some of the shorts, they do so based on if it makes them feel special or not. And when those shorts are saying we're all special, many people don't like to hear that. What they don't understand is that that's an indication of their own ego's insecurity. Because when you're self-empowered, you're always in a ventral vagal state with humanity, life, and unknowns. Because you're not afraid. You're not in competition. You're not at unease. And when you are hurt, you know what it is. So it doesn't mean you're your friend. It doesn't mean you're your enemy. It means your feelings are hurt. It's heartbreak. That's what it's called. And you allow yourself to be, again, that grown up and to comfort you. And this is where it's not about keeping cliche sentences with what happened. You're not a hostage. Doesn't mean you'll forget that moment. Here's that other part. As you uncharge and clear resentment and know what it is, your ego self is always going to feel that something is unfair as long as you hold any space for that word in your own experience, versus neutrality, versus it happened, it's in the past. This is why it's important to go beyond beliefs, because as long as you're thinking there has to be a lesson, there has to be something, you're actually not in neutrality. Your body is therefore continuing. It's not a battle, but a comparison. So when we compare, we're in duality. That's why it's not the 5D state. That's why the ego self is still holding on as an adaptive child. Allow yourself to notice when I say that word resentment, where it goes in the body, what things come to mind. Unfairness, deep pain, deep heartbreak. Allow yourself to take time as it comes to explore those. But I'd like you to make sure that before you begin any type of mental exploration, that you center yourself in the state of bliss and love. And this is why it needs to be what life means to you. So how do you want to feel? How do you want to resolve something that holds that much deep emotion? So think of something, if you want, that is that important, whether it be an interaction with people, person, or situation. It brought, whether you want to, I'm trying to pick words because I don't want to use words that aren't helpful. So I'm just going to say resentment again, unfairness, helplessness, hopelessness, feelings of loss, okay? Feelings of just deep, deep, deep loss. Now, the part about unfair and resentment, those are what your ego self as a child emotionally would have wanted differently. This is where our mammalian heritage is in play. The lack of predictability, the expectation that was broken. Things that people say it's what you wanted. And this is where some will say, label it a gift. Don't label it anything. It's not a positive or a negative. Doesn't have to be a positive or a negative. It's an experience. This is the part. You're not your own movie. You are living it. If you want to give yourself empowerment, this means to sit in neutrality and unconditional love, pure love, unbound, unconditional. And the emotion is physiological for a very simple breakdown of our brain and nervous system. Stop telling the narratives that don't lead you to your empowerment. Allow the emotion to be what it is, an actual emotion. It's not going to be there forever. It's not going to not be there forever. Again, you're not needing to compare what you're going through. Feeling it through with neutrality is what you're going to want to do to get to ventral vagal state. And then once you've made that peace with the feeling of resentment, unfairness, unkindness, deep loss, now, when you know that you have a very good handle on an emotion that is more neutral than not, now you can begin, let's think. Now let's look at your narratives. Let yourself look at what stories, what battles play out. Here's where you're going to want to add new perspectives, okay? And break free from the duality. And this is going to be your consistent. These videos are always online. And what I mean by that is our ego self is still involved. You do it the first time, then if you do it later on, you'll find that with that same situation, you'll gain even more insights, because as you settle in your body that there's nothing physically dangerous, your prefrontal cortex, your body, again, it becomes more and more at ease. You become comfortable with that situation, which allows your mind to be in clarity, because you're not using the stories that keep you in battle. Example, again, practice is what helps us to become masters. And when it comes to dealing with each other in life's unknowns, every one of those either events and or life and or people is separate and needs its own time. That's all. It's not a need because it has to. It's only if you want to. I'm still working on, for example, allowing myself to be neutral towards my cat that left all of a sudden, and I don't know what happened to him. It still is something that is a loss in my heart. And it's not good or bad. It's a loss. If I lose a loved one, it's a loss. And people, again, want to use words that are in a box that keeps that in suffering. The empowerment leads you to be in enlightenment and bliss and neutrality. The more you practice the neutrality, the more the body does not feel hyper aroused or hypo aroused, sympathetic or dorsal. Your body is always leading you, but it began as an infant and then, a child and teenager. So we have the ability to be aware now that we have the information out there. So again, you guys come back, and if you've picked this one thing that is still something you want to continue seeing how it evolves, the more you allow yourself to bring neutrality to the resentment, to the unfairness, then you elaborate once you're centered on the thoughts. And the thoughts, you don't want to tell a story, but you want to, everything that comes up, you want to allow, okay? So, now I have disconnected from you. I'd like you to take a minute to settle in, to feel loved. Please smile. And do know that all humanity feels deep loss, resentment, hurt, unfairness, because, life is full of that lack of predictability. All of our nervous systems react the same way. As a grown-up, once you get to that space of functional adult emotionally, it doesn't become bearable, guys. The more you move to neutrality and just leaving that why there's life in curiosity, okay? So you learn curiosity, not statements, not one truths, not labels. You just know there's more than one variable. This is for those who are choosing enlightenment, soul age group, because some will not, and they will continue to refer to storylines, and this is for our podcast topics, not for our transmission sessions. So smile, be at ease with your emotions, please. Self-empowerment and eventual vagal state, again, is you in compassion, love, passion. Nobody's an actual threat. There are people that you may just feel off, right? So start noticing that. The part about resentment, you're defending you. It's cool. You want to make choices, maybe not engage with those people anymore, maybe tell them off. We don't want to tell them off. That's not a good idea, but I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you explore your options as a person who just wants you guys to know it's okay to be you, imperfect, vices, virtues. There are ways for us to be grown-ups, enlightened, and that comes from being empowered, which means self-compassionate one, and compassionate towards external. Your power lies within you. It's your mind. For as much as people want to tell people not to think, it's your mind and heart and body. And in the ventral state is when you're using your actual mind, all of it. So that prefrontal cortex energy. That's your executive decision maker. Otherwise, you're not engaging in your executive. And so you're going to make some choices you don't really want to make. This is why calm yourself, breathe, smile, take some time, get excited. Every day's a new day. Thank you for joining. See you guys in the next session.